The film suggests that Doc sort of felt abandoned when Mort Schumann left him. Did they always get along afterward, especially after Mort Schumann's success in France?
Did Doc and Mort get along?
Yeah, after they broke up.
I think that my father felt bad about Mort moving, and so I think he did feel a bit abandoned. That is true, and I think he always secretly had hoped that they could reconcile. And they stayed on and off close, and we're very close with the Mort Schumann family now, but I think there were years where he wished that Mort hadn't left.
The question in the balcony.
You never mentioned in the film about his formal training as a writer-songwriter. Did he have formal piano lessons or anything like that?
The question is about whether Doc had any formal training, musical training.
Yeah, he went to Brooklyn College, and he could write, he could write music and read music, and he did take a bunch of, technical training classes. He played saxophone, he played piano, but not a lot. He just jumped right in as a singer, and then started writing, mostly into a tape recorder.
In the middle. Over there.
In the film, there's reference to Bob Dylan being a great compliment for his songwriting. Conversely, is there any you come across any references by Doc about what he thought about Dylan as a songwriter?
And what was the song?
Oh, okay. The song Bob Dylan never. Okay, sorry. The question was two-part. You want to repeat it? Okay. Okay. What did my father think of Bob Dylan as a songwriter? And what was the song that they wrote together? Do I have it correct? Okay. The song that he wrote, he actually wrote a song and then he sent it to Dylan. It was called The Dewdrop Inn. He never recorded it. Bob never recorded it. And I think Bob Dylan was going through writer's block, and he just had contacted him and spent the whole day at his apartment, and then he never heard from him again. So but Dylan always makes references to how much he really liked my dad in many interviews and in songs, and of course he did the tribute album that we produced where he does the Boogie Woogie Country Girl. And my dad was a fan of Dylan's. I don't think he had a favorite Dylan song, but he was very flattered that Bob came to him for advice.
There, go. Yeah, go.
How did your father maintain his humanity in inhumane business, and how did he keep his kind of ego intact relative to all this big so-called fortune that he experienced?
The question was, how did he maintain his humanity, and how did he keep it intact while being successful? Is that, or he was just a very real person, and he had so many hardships in his life that I don't think any amount of success really affected him. He enjoyed success, but it never affected who he was. And he was always accessible. His phone number was always listed in the phone book. Anybody could call him.
What were some of the hardest editing choices you had to make?
The question is, what were some of the hardest editing choices we had to make? And I'd like to hand it off to the world's best film editor.
It was really good.
Oh, thank you. Well, part of it was just having this embarrassment of riches of music, and I drove around in my car listening to it for months and just absorbing every line and seeing what would fit in and kind of work into the story, and then when I get stuck, Sharon would have the perfect song, to lay in there, and so that was just kind of the choices of the music, and then just there really is so much story that isn't in there, that just these interesting little anecdotes, and we just had to keep paring it down, and that's always a challenge with a good subject matter. So.
Did you have any favorite songs?
I think he liked Lonely Avenue a lot because he wrote it alone, and I think he liked the later stuff he was working on, probably, just because it was closer to his heart. He was a blues, blues man at heart. So he started his career writing the blues, and he ended his career writing blues. And I think that was really what turned him on the most.
I have a question up here.
Oh, wait, she was just finishing about what did he write for Marianne Faithfull? Okay. She recorded a song called "Hello Stranger" that he wrote for her, and she worked it out. He wrote it with Dr. John, and she practiced it in his apartment quite a bit, and then she recorded it, produced by Hal Milner.
Question in the balcony.
Did he have a favorite group that he preferred to record his songs? And before you answer, I'm the world's greatest Drifters fan.
Yay!
Did he have a favorite group?
He loved the Drifters. He was real close to Ben King and Charlie Thompson. He actually created the Drifters. He had a group called the Crowns, and and that became the Drifters.
Right.
He had a little record company called R&B Records, and that is where the Crowns recorded on that, and then that later was the Drifters.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
What's the Toronto connection?
What's the Toronto connection?
A couple of important Toronto connections. One is we have been blessed with a collaboration with Will Hector, who is our partner in every way on this film, and came together with Amy and me to make Jews in Baseball, an American love story. This is our second film together, and working with Will has just been an unbelievably great experience. And Will came along after we were just about to finish Jews in Baseball and said, the next film, I've got an idea. And he said, Doc Pomus. And I said, I know the name, but I don't know. He said, let me tell you about this character, and boy, was that a good idea. In addition, and Will is based in Toronto, we did the technical finishing work of the film in Toronto, and shout-outs are due to the post-production houses that we worked with here, Spence Thomas Audio Post, Richard Spence Thomas and Gary Vaughn, who are genius, wonderful sound designers, and Bullseye Post, Patrick Hurley did the finishing video work on this film, and to see their magnificent work on this humongous, amazing screen and amazing sound system is just really unbelievably great.
I just wanted to say one thing about, in terms of Will Hector. I think Will Hector, the film could never have been made without Will Hector for a million reasons, but he added an unbelievable amount of creative presence to this project as well, so I'm deeply indebted to him.
I wonder how your father would have felt about this film premiering at a Jewish Film Festival, his connection to...
He was like a bagel and lox Jew. He wasn't, we didn't grow up religious, but he felt very Jewish to his core, so I think he'd be very jazzed by it.
Middle.
Somebody asked if he had any musical training, and I seem to remember from the book that he was a saxophone player, and he was hit by a snowball.
Oh, right.
That had a rock in it.
That's right.
And I thought that was very touching in the book, that he couldn't play, he didn't have the embouchure anymore.
That's right. His hand was hurt.
I just wanted to ask the director why that wasn't...
That was in the 6-hour version of that. There are so many amazing details about this man's life, and if you made up any of them, people would think you were a liar. It's unbelievable what happened in this man's life and how unlikely all of it was. But he was apparently passing by a snowball fight and got hit by it. And had his hand damaged. There's so many great stories. We could go on all night telling you some of them. Doc discovered Bette Midler and started her career. We tried, there came a point where we thought you can only sit for an hour and a half or so, and the film was at some point 4 or 5 hours long, and we had to be disciplined, which is a horrible thing to have to be.
We have time for one more question.
Who is the baby in the picture, in the movie? You were holding a baby?
Oh, that was Shirley's son. She later got married and had a child who's now a 24-year-old man. Yeah.
All right, I want to thank our guests. I want to thank all of you.
Thank you.
And be sure to come back next year. We'll have lots more beautiful films.